Hey everyone, TechPriestFred here, and before we start I wanted to give you guys a free code. I got accepted to the Snowprint Creators Guild and this will allow me to share some prizes with you from time to time and organize some giveaways. So as a good start, my very first code will be Machine is Eternal, which will give your Adeptus Mechanicus some well-deserved love. I hope that you will enjoy it, and now let's please proceed to the main topic of the video. Today I wanted to touch roster choices regarding your legendary release event progress. We have dozens of characters already in the game, and hero release events along with legendary release events are the most consistent way for every player to push their roster forward. Currently in the game, we have Ragnar legendary release event number 3 going on, with Vitruvius and Karn on hold waiting for their next turns. I could also include the Data Mined Blood Angels legendary release event, but that is certainly not the point of the video. The point of the video is to show you how to think about characters and their possible usage in legendary release events. How do we improve on this? Well, let me show you. As we all know, Tacticus is full of different game modes and events, and some characters are good in one of them, some are more flexible and can be used in many of them, and some are bad and don't really have many uses, unfortunately. Legendary release events are the most restrictive events in the game right now, and that's a good thing about them, since they force you to bring together a team that can fit a different scenario and work despite the characters not being used together most of the time. Some of the requirements in legendary release events are more forgiving, like requiring you to use mechanical units or units without a ranged attack. Some of them can be a pain to fulfill, since there aren't many characters in the game that fit the certain niche that is required, like big target units for example. But not every character that fills a niche is a good investment. Quite the opposite. For example, we know that Bolter, physical and one-hit requirements are quite common and yield good points, yet Certus is on no one's radar while being useful in all three of them. And that's for a good reason, balance-wise and resource-wise, but it shows us how we should approach the choices that we make. We cannot let a legendary release event dictate our roster choices. We must make it a good complement, and the characters that we will pick for the events have to be usable in other game modes. Certus does fill the one-hit requirement and the physical damage requirement, the bolter requirement, but he is unusable competitively in every other game mode, so getting him to gold or diamond is a bad choice in terms of optimizing our roster progression. Sure, Certus can be fun in terms of cheese and some different weird builds that I will cover in my future video one day, but even if there was an Overwatch requirement added to a legendary release event, there wouldn't be a need for upgrading Certus. We simply have stronger choices for all of his specific requirements that he could fill. The thing is, for every requirement there is, you will need 5 characters at most in theory. Of course, there may be bans going on some of them, for example a physical requirement that doesn't allow you to use Xenos characters, but you still will need only 5 Chaos or Imperial characters that fill that niche. What this means for our choices is that we need to look at every possible requirement in the game and find the best investments for it. The best investments are characters that are strong enough in a horde-style game mode, like legendary release events, and are also usable in either guild raids or one of the PvP game modes, so Tournament Arena and Guild Wars mostly. For every requirement that could be made, we need to look at the character roster, think about their usage in certain game modes, and consider if we need them at Diamond, Gold, Silver, or if we don't need them at all and can leave them at Stone 1. If you want to improve your thinking regarding the investments done to improve your legendary release event's progress, you would need to consider each possible trait and pick 5 to 8 characters for it. So, 1-hit characters, 2-hit characters, bolters, piercing, mechanicals, flame, everything needs a few characters in the long run. Sure, some characters can fill multiple niches at the same time, and that would bump their usefulness just like Canticles with her 1-hit physical and piercing combo. This makes things even harder to consider, but if you can crack the combos and find out what's actually worth the investment when comparing to your guild power level regarding what bosses you are fighting and what level battleground in Guild Wars you are choosing, this will tell you who you need on silver, who you need on gold, and who you can push to diamond. And it will make your life way easier and make your guild grow in power over time if more of you do the same. Of course, you still need to have every requirement covered. It's better to have 5 characters at silver 1 and push the legendary release events requirement to battle 5 or 6 than to basically be forced to forfeit it and miss out on lots of points for not that big on investment anyway. Getting a character to silver 1 doesn't require that much energy, and it requires you to basically use only 2 legendary experience books, which is such an easy task to accomplish when comparing to 200 legendary experience books required to get a character to Diamond 3. So, in summary, to have your roster optimized for legendary release events, you should have 8 characters filling every requirement. Of course, some of the requirements don't even have that many characters in the game yet, but with bigger character roster in the game, thanks to the passage of time, we will have more and more options. And you still will require only 8 characters to fill those requirements. You have to keep in mind that the bans rotate. Sometimes you won't be able to use power on Imperials. Sometimes you won't be able to use power on Chaos characters. So you need to have 5 characters in the 2 non-banned alliances ready at all times. This means that we need to have 3 plus 3 plus 2 characters. For example, 3 Imperials, 3 Chaos and 2 Xenos, fitting the requirement in order to be able to perform well at all times, despite the bans. Sometimes Snowprint may even ban 2 alliances at once, but I would expect easier limitations and requirements when things like this would happen. So I wouldn't be concerned too much, and I would still focus on finding 3 plus 3 plus 2 combos for the requirements. So, let's try to showcase the thinking behind making legendary release event roster choices, shall we? We'll be taking 1-hit requirement as our target, for example. So, here's a slide with all of the 1-hit characters in the game. Let's quickly rate each one of them based on their usability in the game. Tigurius is required to push the first campaign in the game, and after that is mostly abandoned, which means that we could get him to Silver 1 to pass the campaign and forget about him later, but due to his ass being carried by Bellator in the campaign, I will just put him in stone tier to show you that you don't really need to focus on him. Incisus, on the other hand, is a great defender on Guild Wars, and personally, I think that he is also underappreciated on Power Ups Tournament Arena. Since he is a good Guild Wars character, we can safely improve him to Silver 1 or perhaps even Gold 1 to use in epic rarity fights. Having a good healer on those swarm kind of game modes is also important, since without one, you will get overwhelmed eventually at one point. So getting him to gold instead of silver should make a big difference for your performance. Certus was already talked about. Too weak to consider overall, not usable in any game modes besides basic campaign, and even they're overshadowed by other Imperials. While you have to get him to a certain power level to beat the elite version of the campaign, I will put him in stone tier to show how bad of an investment he is. Then we have Sibyl, whose only usage may be cheesing the enemy Overwatch in Tournament Arena and one-shotting unsuspecting Bellators and Calgars. So that's a silver tier from me just for the Tournament Arena memes. Coming in next is God's Will, another campaign character that is actually very good in Tournament Arena and Guild Wars, so if your guild is higher level, consider getting him to gold. He'll be plenty useful in legendary release events thanks to him killing 2 enemies per turn ideally. Then we have Azrael, who, well, isn't much useful in any game mode right now, so I would go with Stone rank for him in terms of usability. As our last non-mechanical character we have Sarquel, who is simply amazing for damage dealing in Guild Wars, and, well, this grants him either silver or gold rank depending on your needs in Guild Wars. Then, for our first mechanical one-hit character we have Vitruvius. He is usable in a Neurotrope team, he can be used in Tournament Arena for some fun with one-hit characters, but most importantly he is a one-hit mechanic, which means that bringing him to a fight gives him and other mechanical units good sustain. He also gives your other one-hit characters in the track 2 hits with his passive, so that's a bonus against swarm enemies like Reapers. Easy gold material that can be brought up to diamond level if you feel like playing some version of the Neurotrope team. Tangida is our last Imperial character and he is one of the main pieces of the Exitor Raw team. His summons are also quite tanky, have 3 hits and will take a lot of pressure off your main characters, while also clearing crowds, so bringing him, ideally with Vitruvius to keep him healed up, improves your legendary release event progress and, well, increases your safety quite a lot. Easy diamond tier, no questions asked. Then, for Xenos, we firstly have Neurotrope, who is, well, a centerpiece for the Neurotrope team in guild raids, which instantly brings him to diamond tier in the tier list. He may not be the greatest at fighting swarms, but he is good enough to be used in legendary release events and has amazing uses in guild raids. Next is Calandis, who is basically a tournament arena goddess and not much else, but her stats and damage types make her one of the most versatile choices to upgrade for legendary release events. You can't go wrong with Calandis upgrades, so bringing her to silver is a must. And gold is also a totally viable option. Last on the Xenos faction is Shosil, who has lots of things going on for him. He summons, he deals amazing damage, he is pretty hard to kill thanks to the drones, he is useful in raw teams as a discount Tangida, and overall he's pretty useful against almost every guild raid boss in the game, while also being good for guild wars. Diamond tier without a doubt. Last alliance we have is Chaos, who has surprisingly high amount of one-hit characters, so let's go. Archimatos, amazing for the swarm style game modes thanks to him spawning the bloodletters constantly, useful in guild wars and against many guild raid bosses, easy diamond tier here. Corrodius gives other Chaos units 1 movement, can be useful on some legendary release event maps, but mostly is used in the campaigns and in guild wars to get to fighting faster. Pretty tanky, has summons that potentially can almost go infinite, so it's a solid silver with a chance for gold based on your needs. Pestillion is usable only on one-hit requirements against the Necrons, since his blast damage allows you to clear Scarab Swarms, which are the hardest one-hit counters, and he's totally useless other than that, so yeah. But this requirement alone makes him silver tier without a doubt. Typhus. Solid tank with AoE clear once per fight, the best frontliner in the whole one-hit requirement, meaning that he could be used as a discount turtle tank with Incisus and Sibyl behind him. Last, we have the Thousand Suns, starting with Yazagor, who is actually a core part of the Neurotrope team, but doesn't need much leveling at all, since his usage depends on his movement and bonus hit from his active, not requiring him to be silver, gold or diamond. He is stone tier for me, useful character that doesn't need much upgrading to be used in the top teams. Abraxas is next, and he is the engine to run with Neurotrope. He is also amazing for Guild Wars on offense, he is also amazing on Tournament Arena, he is the hero of almost every Chaos quest that we get in the game, and well, you can say that he has lots of things going for him. Easy diamond tier in terms of usefulness and power level. Then we have the guy with the weird name, who is unusable beyond belief, one of the easiest stone tiers in the game, to be honest. And last we have Ahriman, who has many uses in guild raids with his different synergies and is also good in guild wars. Additional benefit for him is that he is repeatable active is great for clearing groups of enemies, so he will make it extra easy for you to clear the levels of the legendary release event. Easy diamond tier here. So yeah, that was a quick-ish tier list of one-hit characters in the game. Now, you see, the problem is that you need to do this sort of tier list for every requirement there is in the game, and then you have to pick 8 characters in a 3+3+2 manner to be able to complete these events to the fullest. So, the choices for me for the one-hit requirement would be Imperial, Tangida, Vitruvius, Incisus, Xenos, Shosil and Calandis, Chaos, Archimatos, Abraxas and Typhus. And if you don't have like any of those, you just fill out the slots with other characters from the requirements, simple as that. While some of the requirements need you thinking about building a team around them, like this one-hit scenario where we need summons, we need multi-hits, healers, mechanics, some requirements are easier to meet, like no mechanical units, or no infiltrate units, or melee only. Those will get there naturally, while you are busy tier listing the harder requirements like certain damage types or niche traits. It mostly resolves around intuition and gut feelings overall, but it can be break down to math if you are the spreadsheet kind of guy. Understanding your roster and keeping it diverse in terms of traits and stats, while also keeping it competitive in guild raids and guild wars, is the way to go if you want to be successful in the game, especially if you are a free-to-play player. I hope that this video helped you understand roster prioritization for legendary release events. While not giving you the best rewards overall in the game, because this title belongs to guild raids, the legendary release events give you a consistent, fun and challenging game mode that actually makes you really appreciate your growing roster, and in the end gives you a free legendary character, free promotions for them if you are strong enough. So that is exactly why you should have this game mode in mind when progressing your characters. I hope that this video helped you, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider using my referral code, which would help me quite a lot, to be honest. You can only use it once though, so please choose who you support wisely. Have a nice day, I will see you in the next one, and as our first code ever in the channel's history says, the machine is eternal.